many racetracks around the world that carry the name recognition that Watkins Glen International does.
So much history for motor racing around here.
Green flag out racing at Watkins Glen. 3.45 miles in length and all kinds of elevation changes.
They're too wide, 2x2x2.
Incredibly aggressive driving right now.
These are real beasts of cars to drive.
That 5.2-liter V10 normally aspirated engine, 620 horsepower. These things absolutely just scream.
When you release the raging bulls onto this racetrack, as a fan, as a spectator, you know you're going to see some great action.
Look around the outside of turn 6, wow.
Lamborghini and Watkins Glen, you put those together and you have one heck of a show. Well, the fever started 78 years ago, just down the hill from where we are right now in the quaint village of Watkins Glen, New York, when sports car racing took to the streets and the roads around the town. In 1956, it moved here to Watkins Glen International. What a spectacular facility this is, and it is a historic one. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Brian Till, along with Ryan Marine. We'll have the call for you today. Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, race number 2 of the weekend, and the weather is absolutely perfect. To some, a little on the warm side, but absolutely brilliant sunshine, and it is going to be a good one. Ryan Marine, this is a special place.
Oh, it sure is. It gets your heartbeat going just driving into this place in upstate New York. Beautiful venue by the Finger Lakes. You have great elevation change, great views from the grandstands along the pit straight. And just look at some of these corners. The back straight down to the inner loop, the outer loop, the chute, which leads to the famous boot. Turn 1, certainly an action area, especially on the start. The inner loop as well. Great passing opportunity there. Same, too, for the heel of the boot. Turn number 8. 11 turns in all, 3.5 miles around. This place is magic.
Absolutely gorgeous place. We said 1956 is when Watkins Glen opened. And think about it, it was really a renaissance time for motorsports in the United States. Back then, 1955, Road America opened. 57, Lime Rock Park, Virginia International Raceway, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca, Riverside Raceway, Bridgehampton. And then not long after that, Mid-Ohio in 62, Mid-America in 65, Sonoma in 68. Those are some awesome racetracks. Some of them aren't with us anymore, Ryan, but I mean, think of all those racetracks that were built, and they're all special in their own right.
Yeah, you just named some of the classics, that's for sure. And they came from a certain time and place, and you could see that in the character of this track, using the natural topography beautifully to create such a challenge, but also a rhythm and a flow to it. But it's also a place that will bite you if you make a mistake. We saw that from time to time in race 1 yesterday. It's unforgiving if things go wrong.
Well, yeah, before we get to race 2, let's take a look back at the drop of the green in race 1 of the weekend. 41 cars in total, and it didn't take long for the action to start with 41 of these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2s hustling around this racetrack. Mathieu Boucher gets the car refired after the contact with the wall here, heads to pit lane. And then just a little bit later on, 27 machine, Jaden Conright squeezed into the wall in the uphill S's, managed to get it back on track. That was dodging one there, Ryan.
It was indeed. We had another dodgy moment here. Nick Grote and LB Cup class leader Troy Peterson making contact. Both cars go around. That was a dangerous moment in front of the field.
Yeah, but in the end, pro class, and this has championship implications right here. Elias De La Torre and his new for the weekend teammate, Daniel Morad, right there, giving him congratulations. They take the victory. I said it has championship implications because it moves De La Torre to the championship lead in the pro category. 4 different classes compete, but all in the same car, and I think that's the cool thing about Lamborghini Super Trofeo worldwide. As you look at the starting grid on the left side of the screen there, you'll see different color number panels beside the different driver names, and that gives you an idea of the class. In pro, it's that orange triangle in the windscreen, upper right for the driver, upper left as you look at it. Pro-Am denoted by yellow, Am by green, and LB Cup by blue. And you'll see also a little, I call it a chiclet, on the rear bumper that has those same colors. Excitement yesterday, we talked about Nick Grote and that issue that he got into. How crazy is it in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America when you put 41 cars on the racetrack. We'll take a look at the onboard from Nick Grote. This is wild.
Oh, this is breathtaking stuff. It goes to show what it's like in the middle of the cut and thrust of battle in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Looking left, but then there's a car to the inside, can't go to the left-hand side. And look how busy Nick is behind the wheel as well, driving through the dirt, watching cars zip by. Oh, just fantastic stuff.
Hey, we're almost to 4th of July. This is like standing out and having somebody shoot bottle rockets or Roman candles at you, right? I mean, there's just cars everywhere, out of the toe of the boot. And that incident that we saw a little bit earlier, you want to know how Nick Grote saw it? Well, he saw it just like this.
A little too close for Nick, I think it's safe to say.
And there you go. I mean, that is what it is like in a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 in the middle of traffic around Watkins Glen International.
Well, that was big for Nick, who came into the weekend second in points. Did salvage a 7th place finish in the M class, but that's dropped him down to 4th. That's how quickly things can change, especially in that class with the point standings totally bunched up, but a chance to do it again here in race number 2. 50 minutes on the clock, and this race is about to get underway in just a few moments' time.
Well, and Ryan, you know what else is about to get underway? The second half of the season, because now this is race number 6, and as we leave here, we were running 12 all season long. We end with the final 2 races in Monza, the World Championship. So we still have a long way to go and some great racetracks to still face here in the next coming couple of months. Lights out on the pace car, and we should be going green this time as they dive to pit lane. And now on the front row, got to make sure you get this good start down. Elias De La Torre behind the wheel of orange and black number 29. Outside the front row, Kiko Porto for Rafa Racing Team. And 2 Pro Class cars leading the way. They mix them up however they qualify, so it's not divided by classes on the grid, waiting till they get into the start zone. And De La Torre on the throttle, 620 horsepower to the ground, and it's really 620 times 41. That's the roar you hear down to turn 1, and De La Torre has the lead.
That's exactly what he wanted to do, control the race from the start, stay out of some of the chaos we saw from that onboard shot with Nick Grote from race 1 yesterday. Picture-perfect getaway for the TR3 Racing driver. Look at those aggressive moves, though, up through the S's. Remember, these are cold tires as well. A lot of horsepower going to these wheels, and cold tires trying to manage it.
Good thing for these drivers. Good track temperature right now, about 111 degrees on the racing surface, about 77 degrees in ambient temperature. These hand-cooked tires should come up to temp and pressure pretty quickly, but it's going to be at least a half a lap or a lap or so before you can really feel secure using that 620 horsepower that's available to you.
Yeah, right now you got to tiptoe, got to have a pretty light throttle foot to make sure you're not applying too much of that power too soon. Look at that. Look to the inside, car 95,
Whoa.
That's Tasca. Oh, and a big move around the outside. Actually, that was off into the marbles perhaps and nearly off track. Good save.
Yeah, I think that was all about saving yourself. Open your hands, slow the car down in a straight line, and then try to get it turned on the outside. And again, tires just a little bit cool, and we said half a lap, maybe a lap before you can really feel secure with it, but already heating up on the racetrack. You saw the 22 with a good move to the inside there, trying to move forward. Settling down, back onto the long course, and you really kind of want to get a lap underneath you and get things just kind of calm down. Like you said, it was James Lawley that we saw on board the 22 trying to get that move, and this is that drama down into what we call the laces of the boot on that first lap. Good save, keeping the car on the racetrack, and now you can kind of put your head down and get back at it.
Yeah, we talk about this place being unforgiving. That's a rare one that you can get away with. Really good driving there to use every piece of tarmac to make sure you get the car slowed down, get around that corner, and continue on. Didn't throw the race away there on the opening lap. De La Torre, though, leading by 1.2 seconds over Kiko Porto, who's not a full season driver. That's a car that's changing classes with a different lineup here this weekend. Then it's Mark Miller, best of the Pro-Am class cars, running a solid third. This is really big for them. They need him to have a nice stint here to build a big lead, and then they can use that in the second half of the race. Hopefully it stays green for them. That's the key to their strategy today.
Dean Newell's aboard that bright orange and black number 70 around turn 5, diving down into the boot, having a real go right now with the 57 just in front of him. And that is Nick Grote aboard the 57 from X09 Racing. Remember, Grote had a problem yesterday, got turned around. He wants to make amends and see if he can move back up in the championship after moving back a little bit and a little push and shove by the 36 there in the toe of the boot.
Andrew Heffring in the 36, trying to make the move there. A couple of cars in different classes fighting for positions. David Staub is who he's trying to get around, that highlighter yellow car. Able to get to the flank, but not all the way alongside. And even though they're in different classes, they're still going to fight pretty hard here, because having a buffer to another car in your class, that can be so crucial in these races.
And right behind that duo having that battle is the black and silver 99 Rocky T. Bulldog, your winner yesterday in LB Cup. And so for Rocky, he's sitting there. He's got competition right behind him, and Josh Espahane. He wants those guys out of the way, but he doesn't want them to have a problem and get tangled up in someone else's mess.
Precisely so. Interesting that way that the three classes are overlapping here. Here is Espahane. Talked to him earlier in the weekend. On a touch.
This is going to be big. It's in the S's. That's the 46 car around, and oh, big contact. You know when there's a problem there in the S's, it's going to get bigger. It just turns into basically a garden hose that you've got to find your way through. The 22 car involved, and that is high-speed impact.
Wow. Brandon Godovic, that's the car that went around, and you said it, it's in the S's. You can see there's just not much room to maneuver. Those cars are flat chat through this section of the racetrack as well. A lot of elevation change. Your sight lines are obstructed somewhat as an oncoming car, and that you come upon that accident scene very, very quickly. Brandon got in the wall and then tagged by a couple of other cars too. The rest of the field tiptoeing their way through as the emergency vehicle arrives on the scene.
AMR Track Services on the scene almost instantly. They've got 2 Porsche Cayenne chase vehicles that they will arrive at the scene as quickly as they possibly can, and a couple of larger pickup trucks that they utilize as well. And there's no better safety team in the business than that AMR Track Services squad on the scene, as I said, almost instantly, already at the cars, trying to ensure that the drivers have the best care possible. And you don't want to move a driver out of a car prematurely, even if they think they are okay. You want to give them a chance to kind of catch their breath and do a quick checkup and make sure everybody's okay before you begin to try to move someone out of the car. Even if they say, no, I'm good, you want to do some checks on them, and that's what the AMR Track Services team is all about. Their members are some of the best rescue personnel in the world, and that's what they do outside of race weekends. They're working for fire departments and rescue squads, the military, everywhere around the country, around the world, and the amount of experience that they have is stellar. Roy Spielman heads that group up, and he has an absolutely fantastic team at his disposal.
Yes, definitely. They have specific training for how to deal with motorsports specific incidents like this one as well, and they'll know the drivers, they'll know their medical history, and be prepared for the situation when they arrive on the scene. The other 2 cars involved, by the way, Brian, appears to be the car of Avery Towns, also James Lawley. So 3 cars out of the pro class involved in that incident that started with the 46. I think there was some contact that we saw. Front to rear, the 46 was the one that was tipped around into a spin, then pinballed off the wall on either side of the S's, and was left in a rather unfortunate and compromised position in the middle of the track with a whole host of oncoming vehicles making its way up through that very fast section of the circuit. That's what's brought out this full course yellow.
And as you said, I mean, that is a section of the racetrack where you are flat out, and it is heavily guarded by that 3-4 level guardrail, and there is literally no runoff. So for a section of about 200 yards, there's no room to give. If a car has a problem there, it's going to be confined to the racetrack. And of course, it is a series of S's where you're on the right side of the road, then the left side, then the right side. And if you've got a car ricocheting off those guardrails in front of you, it's hard to ascertain and try to guess where that car is going to be when you get to it. Red flag now coming out. You see the corner workers there. So the officials have looked at this and said, there's enough debris and enough concern that we should get the race cars off the racetrack so that the track services group and the local workers here at Watkins Glen can get this cleaned up. You don't want to risk their safety out on the racetrack trying to move equipment around and trying to get things cleaned up and still have race cars circulating around the racetrack, even if they're behind the safety car.
Right, even behind the safety car, you're still talking about a pretty quick clip if you're just driving around on the streets in your road car. And the last thing that the safety crew needs as it's dealing with this situation is cars coming through intermittently every 3 minutes or so behind the safety car. Just send the cars down the pit lane, let the safety crews do their job unencumbered by any other traffic out on the racetrack. And, you know, they're the best at what they do. They'll get down to business and take care of the situation to the best of their abilities.
Well, and of course, the other thing that you're doing is trying to keep the cars that are running and not involved in the incident kind of out of a future incident by keeping them from running through all the debris that's up there. Every lap that they would go through while the track services group and the local track workers are trying to get it cleaned up, that's the potential to pick up a puncture, pick up some debris on the Hankook tires that you have on your Lamborghini. And when we do go back to green, you don't want to have a compromised race car at that point in time because you've picked up some debris that you don't know about, and you get into the high-speed section of the racetrack and have some type of a failure because of debris that you've picked up. So good call by Todd Snyder, and who's the race director, and everybody in race control to say, hey, let's let the professionals do what the professionals do, and that is get us back to racing as soon as we can. We'll get the cars off the racetrack. The clock will continue to run, and the officials will get this taken care of and cleaned up as quickly as they can, as safely as they can.
I think that's the most important part, as safely as they can, tending to the drivers involved in the incident, but also, again, with the welfare of the safety crews in mind, too. They've got a job to do and don't need to be concerned about cars coming around behind the pace cars we talked about a couple of times. It's a relatively warm afternoon here. It's not hot by any means, Brian, but it is still warm for these drivers in the cars. Now they're going to have to come down the pit lane and sit there, and the rules are pretty strict about what can be done to the car during a red flag, which is next to nothing. So it can be pretty hot inside these race cars, and just sitting there behind a red flag, not knowing how long the red flag is likely to go on for, that can be a difficult situation for the driver. You're all amped up, ready to go racing here today. You get a little chance to do so briefly, but then it all comes to a stop, and now you have to sit and think and stew in the heat. Not a comfortable place to be.
I love that, stew in the heat. Now, race control aware of that, right? And so as the race director has other things to do, he can also look at it and go, hey, you know what? A crew guy with a water bottle can go out. A crew guy with a fan can go out. So they can allow different things to happen based upon the situations that we are. Like you said, it's not particularly hot here. The temperature in the mid-70s, but the sunshine very bright, and that dark asphalt that the cars are sitting on are going to soak up heat and radiate that. Obviously, that 620 horsepower engine that's sitting there right behind you, the Lamborghini V10, it's going to have some heat in it. It's going to radiate heat through the cockpit as well. So the race director and the officials are aware of that, and if they can help alleviate some of that discomfort by allowing a fan, you know, to be blown in and stuff like that, they may elect to do that. And they also have a much better idea because they've got live reports from the scene as to how long the track services group thinks it may take to get things back in order and get things cleaned up and allow us to get back to putting cars on the racetrack.
Yeah, that's what it comes to here. Boy, tough one here to get this started. Yesterday's race, I mean, we saw the onboard, didn't we, at the very beginning. You could see how intense it was in the middle of the pack, but by and large, we had a pretty good race. We had a lot of green flag running, good battles on track, good action on the racetrack, Brian, but unfortunately, we're going to lose a good chunk of this race to this red flag. Here's a look at what happened coming up the hill. Brian, what do you make of it?
The 72 just gets into the back of the 46. That's what turns him, and then there's where the problem comes in. And we talked about it. You're just in this tunnel, and you cannot get out of the way, and huge impact there, huge impact.
Yeah,
Another
that
look.
is really the worst case scenario, right? To be in the middle of the track, this part of the track where you're really limited in where you can go as one of these oncoming drivers. Did look like they did a pretty good job to get on the brakes and at least arrest some of the speed. But you can see the violence of that impact. That is harrowing to watch, and that is the best news of all. Brandon Godovic with a thumbs up as he is attended to by the medical team. That is such a relief to see, a smile on his face even in a very difficult situation.
I saw his left shoe off, and I don't know if perhaps they were taking a look at his left foot, or did he lose his shoe in the impact because it was so significant. And the reason I say that, I remember an incident that Joey Hand had at Mid-Ohio years ago on the back straightaway where the car cartwheeled a couple of times, and when they got him out of the car, he was fine, but his left shoe was missing, and it was never found.
What are the odds
Literally
of that?
never found.
Well, I'm sure there's some fan somewhere near Mansfield, Ohio, with a pretty cool souvenir.
They may have a souvenir.
That's right. It probably isn't going to go public with that because I bet they'd like to keep that shoe, all things considered. Funny, though, that it's a shoe from Joey Hand. You'd think it'd be a glove.
Oh, no, you didn't. You did.
I did.
So James Lawley involved in that in the 22. We saw Brandon Godovic, Avery Towns. The fans want us to get back to racing as well. They're certainly concerned about the drivers involved, but they want to get back to racing. They want to see these Lamborghinis around the racetrack.
Oh, we do too, that's for sure. Again, yesterday's race was a lot of fun, and I thought really set the table nicely for race number 2 here today. Crucial point in the season as well, like you talked about. We're coming around the turn, about to start the back 9 to make the golf analogy as far as the season is concerned. And this is really about positioning yourself for that stretch run, trying to mount a championship challenge. And for a lot of these drivers, there's some pressure starting to mount. If you dug yourself a bit of a hole at the start of the season, it's pretty easy for things to start to snowball from there. And meanwhile, if you've had a good start to the year, you're thinking about how quickly things could go away, as we saw on a couple of occasions yesterday. Another look at the incident that has us under the red flag.
See the two cars get together there, and this is what I was saying, when the car rolls back into the middle, that's the most disconcerting part of the whole thing, is the 55 of Avery Towns gets into the side of Godovic, and it's just frightening to watch. But when you look at it and you watch both drivers able to literally walk away, it was the 73 that was involved, not the 72. All the drivers walk away. It's just testament, especially that hit into Brandon Godovic, and he's left exposed in that 46. The whole side of the car is gone, and yet we saw him out of the car smiling as he was loaded into the ambulance. He's going to be sore tomorrow, without a doubt, but the testament to the way these cars are built and the safety equipment that the drivers wear, the Hans device that every driver that races anywhere in the world is required to wear, and I think you'd be foolish if you weren't required to and you didn't. You should put it on anyway, right? But I can remember back in the day, I never had one when I raced. And in fact, I remember when Jim Downing developed it, and all of us at the time said, who is ever going to wear anything that looks like that? Because it didn't look like it does today back then, but he had this great idea as to how to eliminate head and neck injuries and support your head and your neck in a crash and in contact like we just saw. Safety devices like that are critical. The window net that's there beside the driver sitting in the car where it clips in, that is tight as a drum across there, and it keeps the driver from moving outside the car. You see the crash structure there in the doorway as well, down by the driver's hips. And all of that is keeping that driver as safe as they can possibly be. It's not a carbon fiber monocoque safety cell like a Formula One car or an Indy car has, but it is a cage that holds those drivers in, and what you get from that is exactly what we just saw. Massive impact, but the drivers being able to walk away.
That is everything that we hope for when it comes to safety, and all the parts and pieces doing their bit. You know, you talk about seeing the Hans device for the first time, Brian, and how odd it looked. Now, 30 years or so later, you look back at pictures of drivers not wearing them,
crazy.
and that looks odd, right?
It looks absolutely crazy. I can look back at pictures in my career, and you can see my shoulders in the open cockpit car, in the Formula car that I'm in. I mean, you literally can see the top of my shoulders, and your head's just, you're a bobblehead. It's just out there, right? But if you look even further back than that, and I know it's hard to believe that they raced before that, Ryan, but you look back at old Formula 5000 cars and you think, who would ever drive that? The Porsche
Right.
917, there's a famous picture of a crew member holding up a bare frame of a Porsche 917 with one hand.
Right, yeah, and to think that was... The one thing that I once was told that I thought really puts this into perspective, at the time, it's the safest car the driver who's driving it has ever driven, because it is the peak of technology for its day and age. But yeah, upon reflection, looking back, it is really harrowing to think about what some of our legends put themselves through, and you go back to the earlier eras of motorsport, and it's part of the reason why guys from those eras were and continue to be lionized for their feats on the racetrack. But I'm glad we've taken the steps forward that we've had, and again today, what a testament to what a modern race car could do in a harrowing situation. That was really scary stuff. But again, Brandon Godovic with the thumbs up as he was put into the ambulance. That's the best news of all, that all three drivers more or less are okay, and hopefully we can see them before the end of the year, and hopefully at the next round, in fact, of the championship up at Road America.
They will all get the best care you can possibly get at a racetrack. They'll be taken to infield medical and looked at. It's great to see them out of the car, but we're not medical professionals. A thumbs up is always a great sign, but they'll be looked at by professionals. And like I said, it is one of the things when you go to an event where IMSA is, you know that you'll be taken care of. And from a driver's perspective, there's a calm that goes with that. It's not a conscious calm because you don't think about crashing race cars, but it is a calm because you know deep down inside that you've got the best crew that's working with you, and somewhere in the recesses of your mind, you know that if something were to happen, that you've got the best care available to you. And I think that's one of the great things about the AMR Track Services team. All the officials down in pit lane, Johnny Knotts, who leads that pit lane staff, has all the cars lined up, and they have gotten with all of the crew members as to what they can and cannot do. You see the crew members standing back behind the white line there. Nobody's at a car right now. They were just a little bit earlier getting some fresh air into them, but that tells me we may be able to fire engines here relatively soon and get these cars back out behind the safety car.
And we're getting close, under 5 minutes to getting the engines refired, sending the cars out. I mentioned where we are in the schedule just a little bit ago. Up next, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Road America, another one of those classic circuits built around the same time as this one here at Watkins Glen. From there, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the season finale as part of the Lamborghini World Final at the great Monza, the Temple of Speed in Italy. Great way to close out the season. And of course, the North American Championship will wrap up there with a couple of races, and then after that, many of these competitors will race against their global counterparts in the World Final races that take the four different classes from the championships all around the world and put all the drivers together to go for a pro championship, a pro-am title, an AM or an LB Cup title, and it's one of the great events, I think, in single mate racing. I had the privilege to cover it on a couple occasions as a print journalist, once at Imola, once at Vallelunga, and it is really breathtaking. And as you would expect, Lamborghini really takes care of their own, so the hospitality, I'm happy to report, Brian, is second to none.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. I did not get invited.
Well, that was some time ago. I haven't been invited in a little while myself, so maybe I wore out my hospitality.
Well, there you go. All right, we understand under 3 minutes to the command to refire engines. That's a great thing. I will say, you know, race engines are funny things. Red flags are not particularly good. You build up heat, then you shut the engine off, it cools down, then you fire them up again. And race engines don't always like that, but these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2s, pretty bulletproof, and obviously quite the car to drive. Every driver that you speak to just absolutely loves them. A new Lamborghini coming next year, the Temerario. That should be exciting. But, you know, Daniel Morad, who sharing the car with Elias De La Torre this weekend, just filling in, had never driven one before and did a little test last week and then showed up this weekend for his first race and said it's an absolute joy to drive. A lot of horsepower, not a lot of aerodynamics, and we say this a lot, and that is when Lamborghini Super Trofeo shows up on a weekend, by and large, they are the fastest GT car in a straight line than any other car in the paddock. A lot of horsepower, not a lot of aerodynamics, and the thing is a rocket ship in a straight line.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And if you ever get the chance to be trackside, like I know many who are listening to us today are, to get up close, hear the car rip by you, and see that speed firsthand, it is breathtaking stuff, to say the least. And really exciting things to come. You mentioned the new Temerario Super Trofeo car. That's coming next year. That was unveiled at the World Final last November, and a little more information came out about that here recently, but really exciting that that's going to be in several global championships next year. And it's a beautiful looking car. We can see its GT3 counterpart here this weekend racing in the WeatherTech Championship, and a whole field of them expected next year in the States. Really exciting stuff for the future of this championship.
Hey, before we get going again, let's talk about championships real quick. Elias De La Torre took over the lead in the Pro Championship yesterday with yet another victory, and then pole position for today's race. Will Bamber fell to second place, not far back, and again, this championship is certainly not anywhere close to being over with. Danny Formal and Graham Doyle in Pro-Am, they have a stranglehold on that category right now. They extend their points lead, and they are perfect. 5 wins in 5 races so far. We'll see if they can make it 6 for 6. In the AM category, David Staub holds down the point there, and Dean Newells, with his win yesterday, Ryan, he gets catapulted up into second place. And in LB Cup, some movement there as well. Rocky T. Bulldog, with the win yesterday, moves to first. That moves Philippe Touchette back to second place. So those championships, especially in AM and in LB Cup, wide open. And I would say the same thing really for Pro. It's Pro-Am where Graham Doyle and Danny Formal really seem to have things locked down so far.
That is the only one, that Pro-Am championship, that's the only one that is separated at this point, where Doyle and Formal have a pretty comprehensive lead. Outside of that, the other 3 championships are incredibly tight. We're talking just a single point coming into this race in LB Cup, for instance, and several of the others are really close as well. Not quite that close, but still hotly contested, to say the least. Just saw this pop up, Brian, on my race control screen. Car 73, that's Luke Berkeley, the car that tipped Brandon Godovic into that spin a moment ago, has basically been told to park that car. Unjustifiable risk, cease participation, and it's for this incident right here that race control has taken that action.
Yeah, and that's really the catalyst that started the whole thing, right? I had misidentified it as the 72 before that, but he just gets into the back of Brandon Godovic at really the worst possible time, and we discussed that, and that's what led to the red flag and the massive problem that we have. And you see a crew member there going, well, why is he here? And I think the officials just looked at it and said, we don't have room for that in our event, and consequently, you will park that car.
Well, we talked about it at the beginning. This is an unforgiving track, and even small lapses can have major consequences. And I wouldn't say that there was anything malicious. There was no malice in what we saw. But again, the consequence was major, and sometimes it's there's a message that needs to be sent. I'm not entirely sure what race control, it's not like we've had access to their line of thinking, but my suspicion is they just want to make it clear, let's think about the consequences of our actions here and think about that moving forward, not just today, but for the rest of the season.
Oh, absolutely. I think as an official, you never want to penalize based upon the outcome of an incident. Two cars getting together and one spinning but continuing is still contact that removes somebody from their place, right? If they break a suspension piece and are parked on the side of the road, it's still the same penalty. If they have a big crash and right off the car, it's the incident. It's not how big the outcome is. Nobody sits with a calculator and adds up the damage and says, okay, well, since the damage is this, the penalty is more. But when you look at things like that, and it's the penalty that they listed, unjustifiable risk, and they're simply saying, yes, it was a contact penalty, and if we had been down here at the exit of the inner loop where there's extra tarmac and the car had spun, or down in turn 8 or whatever and spun on the road, maybe it would have been a different thing. But we don't think that the thought processes were clear, and we think your risk assessment is not on par with ours. So consequently, we don't want you on the racetrack right now. And Ernie Francis.
Yeah, that message is getting delivered to Ernie from an official there. Ernie's the co-driver of Luke Berkeley, who was in the car at the time of the incident. And to be clear, Luke's a really accomplished driver, former AM-Class champion back in 2021, race winner at multiple levels of this championship, was runner-up in the Pro-Am championship just a few years ago. So, look, a really good racing driver who, in that instance, was in an unfortunate position, and that caused a significant accident. So race control has made its ruling on that, and we move forward from there.
Yep, absolutely. We got cars on the racetrack, and that is all that matters right now as Berkeley climbs out of his Lamborghini, and we'll get back to racing here soon. Inside 20 minutes to go, and it'll be interesting what the decision about the pit window is, how long that window is going to be, and when it will be open. We'll find that out shortly as cars back on the track trying to get some temperature, not only in the Hankook tires, but also rebuild some of that temperature in the engine and the gearbox, everything that you need to get ready to go back to green.
Yeah, that's crucial here to get prepped and also to get back in the zone as a race car driver. They had a couple of laps to go racing and then a long time to sit and think in the pit lane there, and about ready to get going again. You got to get yourself zoned in once more to go do the job here with just over 19 minutes to go, and Elias De La Torre already accelerating away, Brian.
All right, here we go. Green flag. We are racing again at Watkins Glen and Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Elias De La Torre, championship leader, leads the field down to turn 1. Number 2 just behind him. Third car in line is actually Mark Miller from the Pro-Am category, and you're going to find this up towards the front. Pro-Am and Am cars mixed together right now. And when we get to the pit window and driver changes begin to happen, that's when things really get mixed up back on the racetrack. But right now, De La Torre leads the field down to the inner loop.
And because of the extended red flag, there was obviously a delay in the pit window opening. It has now that the race is back underway. So teams that want to do so can pit this next time by. And I believe it should still be for the normal 10 minutes. That can sometimes be truncated in a situation like we saw right here. I'm not seeing anything about that being communicated. So I believe these teams will effectively have 10 minutes from the time that window opened to make their pit stop, make a driver change if it's a 2-driver lineup, and then get to the end of the race from there.
A couple of cars going wide, showing that, that sit on pit lane certainly has cooled down those Hankook tires just a little bit. Inside 18 minutes to go. And what's your strategy? You and I talked about this yesterday when the race was green, and you could go a little longer in the pit window if you wanted to keep your pro in the car. And when you pitted, right now you look at it inside 18 minutes to go, closing down on 17, Ryan. When do you pit?
Well, I think I would tend to pit on the early side of the window to cover off a potential full course yellow that could see you get cycled through. That's if you're in the pro class in particular. But let's look at Mark Miller, for instance, in Pro-Am. I think he's going to stay in that car as long as possible. That's part of their strategy. I touched on that very early in the race. Starting their pro here in race number 2. Whoa, big moment there. Exiting turn number 10, that was a wild ride. Pretty good job to bring that car back on track and then avoid a car that's making that dive to the pits.
Big save there on the part of the 47, like you said. Got a little loose, and the good thing about that extra road to the outside, you can open your hands and use it to slow the car down. The officials will mark that as a strike for track limits, but at the same point in time, the car is at least in one piece.
Yeah, that's the crucial thing. You can keep on going. I think we'll have a look at this here. Final car coming through the shot. Big twitch there on exit. Opens the hands to make the save and uses all that paved road there on the exit. That's definitely a track limits violation, but it's better than the alternative.
I believe that was Cooper Broll behind the wheel of the 47 right there with that moment. He'll catch his breath. Meanwhile, Mark Miller out in front overall as De La Torre has come to pit road. He'll hand that car over to Daniel Morad, and Morad was absolutely spectacular from the get-go. First practice session was fast, just needed to kind of learn the tire, and you and I were talking about how smooth behind the wheel he was yesterday, and that really allowed him to keep that Hankook rubber on that Lamborghini, even with the speed and the lap time he was turning in. Didn't really seem to have a lot of degradation and handed De La Torre a really good car.
Don't need to worry about tire wear today, though, with as little green flag running as we've had. So if you want to thrash on it here, Daniel, go for it. Take that car to the checkered flag. But, man, he was awesome yesterday, as you would expect. He's a top-level pro. Won major races, won the Rolex 24 a couple of times, run at the front of just about every championship he's been in. So, yeah, it wasn't a surprise to see him on the pace right away.
So here's the problem for Miller. Coming down the front straightaway into turn 1, he's now going to catch, I believe that's Mark, he's going to catch all of this traffic that just came out of the pit lane.
That's true. That is not ideal for him, but I still think they're going to keep him in that car as long as possible. Oh, man, that was close. Cut just in front. I think that's Al Mori right behind him, who's the leader in pro. Wayne Taylor Racing running long with that car, unlike what they're doing with the other pro class car that they're running. So this is not ideal because he loses some of his optimal lap time here, which we know he's got plenty of. Put that car up at the very front overall in qualifying, but even still, expect to see him go pretty deep into this race, and this could be a breakthrough day for Mark Miller and Paul Nimshoff, the way things are breaking.
And Mark has been just wicked fast aboard that number 41 all year long. 3 pole positions when he has qualified, and great lap times in the race. They've just had some bad luck along the way and not really had the results that they've wanted. They did finish second place here yesterday, which was a great run for them, but you look at earlier in the year, they had another second place at Laguna Seca, but other than that, the results have been kind of few and far between.
Oddly enough, his 2 previous poles, their finishes are 7th and 8th, so they've had a hard time converting those poles into results. Part of that is the strategy that they run here is contingent on there not being a yellow in the second half of the race. But again, the way this is breaking out with the delayed window, the way he can run really deep into this, that really sets up nicely for them in their strategy here today.
Absolutely, is the 37 now on pit road. And we talk about the mandatory pit stop, 90 seconds if you're a 2-driver format, 93 if it's just a 1-driver format. And I've got to believe that 93-second 1-driver format pit window with this shortened green flag time is going to be painful because you haven't had a chance to let the race spread out, build a gap or anything like that. Is really going to hurt today.
You're right. That's a really good point that you make. That's done to equalize as best as possible the 1-driver lineups versus the 2-driver lineups, because because the single driver, right, you've already been in the car for the first stint. You should be in your rhythm right away out of the pits. You know exactly what the track conditions are, what the car feels like in those conditions, whereas a two-driver lineup, the second driver has to get acclimated a little bit. That's why there's that difference in the pit time regulations.
So Miller in the bright orange and black, number 41, still picking his way forward. He's got to be so careful as he works his way through traffic, slips by the number 19 of Boucher right there, and keeps charging forward. How far can I go? What kind of a gap can I pull over the number 40? Because you want as much space as you can have before you hand that car over to Paul Nimshoff, and Miller picks up yet another one, and now a big crash. That is, I believe, down in turn 8.
And this is bad news for their strategy unless they can get into the pits right away before a potential full course yellow. Christopher Kobe is the one involved. There's a second car too at the top of the screen. A third car obviously was involved with the smoke coming out from the left-hand side there. A late dive to the pit lane that came right across the bow of, I think, Jack William Miller there. That was awfully close.
Yeah, here's what I'm looking at, Ryan. The reason I said, on that long shot into pit lane, you could see all those bright strobe lights in pit lane. That's telling you that the pit lane is closed. Miller was in the pit lane. The question is, when was Mark Miller in the pit lane? Was he in the pit commit spot before it went full course yellow? And the pit commit spot is back at the line, showing you where the pit lane is. There it is, and you can see a light over on the left. You see the solid yellow line there to our right. You need part of the car touching that yellow line, and it can be the first inch of it, or it can be 10 feet down it, but part of the car needs to be on or over that yellow line to the right side when the light comes on to be considered committed to the pit lane.
Yeah, that's going to be crucial for them. If they got in, that looks pretty good for them, but if not, obviously that's quite problematic. We'll see how that plays out. This is a look at the incident here. Bottom of the shot, the 66 got loose and then kind of pinballed between a couple of other cars.
You see the 30 get involved as well, and man, you get into these close quarters, and again, you think about the different skill level and experience level that these drivers have, and you got to be so careful. You see the 40 trying to sneak under there. See, there's the shot of Miller on pit lane with the lights on, but I don't know when the lights came on. I don't know if he was there. I think he must have been, based upon those other cars diving to pit lane or thinking about diving to pit lane. The one with the damage is going to serve emergency service because he has a cut-down tire, so he can come in and take care of that cut-down tire, but you can't do your normal pit stop if the pit lane is closed.
Well, Nimshoff's in the car and now back out on the track, so they did do their service, and why not, right? I mean, if you're not sure, just go ahead and do it because you're already kind of sunk if it ends up being a penalty. They sent that car out, and now we'll see where it cycles out. I think it's going to be towards the front of the Pro-Am field. The car of Jack William Miller is in some trouble here. They did not get to the pit lane, obviously, in time, and that car owes us a stop. That's the risk you take running long because they'll have to wait for the pits to open back up again. When they do, the rest of the field will cycle back ahead of them, and a pretty good day potentially goes away for that Alliance Racing team.
So the 41 and the 65, the message I just got is that they entered a closed pit. Wow. Wow.
And the 41 is Miller, now Nimshoff behind the wheel. So that has major implications for them. Boy, they were so close to having this play off perfectly. But again, as I said earlier, they've had a hard time converting Mark's poles into results, and part of it is too many times this second stint of race 2 has been affected by yellows, and that really goes against what they're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely brutal for the 41. Absolutely brutal. And we knew it was going to be close, but wow.
So report is the top 5 cars overall are yet to make a pit stop. So they'll have to do that once the pits open up once again. And it should be noted, we're running out of time here to get the race restarted, and with that, the opportunity for them to serve that mandatory pit stop. I mean, we're running safety car laps right around 3 minutes. Well, and we're looking at 7.5 minutes to go, so that's pretty simple math to do. Not much time left.
The pit window was to close with 8 minutes left in the race. So obviously, this full course caution kind of threw a wrench into being able to get into the pit lane. But that is, you know, the officials are going to look at the incident and say, well, we had to go yellow. So I will wholeheartedly admit that I'm not sure that if it closed you out and there was a minute left to go, if you'll get a shot at that minute again, or if it closes when it closes and you just didn't get there in time.
My recollection is, and that's
I should
dangerous,
know, and I apologize that I don't.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Brian. I seem to recall that if a yellow comes out, you might get a chance once the race restarts. But the trouble is, if the race doesn't restart, then you don't have a chance to come in at all. Right, and that I wouldn't think you'd be able to get away with. But anyway, we'll let the smarter people than us who are listening, and I'm sure combing through the rule book, let us know what the resolution of that question might be.
Well, I'll tell you what a difference a day makes. We go back to race number 1, and there was certainly some action in it, but nothing like we have seen today. And part of it, actually, I'll go out here and say all of it. It's just exuberance on the racetrack that exceeds either the limit of the car or the limit of the driver who's exhibiting said exuberance, right? So it's one of those things, and that we said at the beginning of the show as well, this racetrack, it has consequences. It is old school, and even though it is beautiful with the grass to the side of the track and so on and so forth, it will bite you if you get together. And it's to me, it's one of the reasons why I love it. But I'm old school.
Yeah, I am too. There's a give and a take, of course, and you know, the negative is that when things go wrong, they can be pretty big, and we've had some lengthy full course yellows, even that one red flag earlier in this race, and that is a byproduct of the old school nature of the track. But on the flip side, it is so rewarding to get a lap right here. It's a joy to drive by all accounts around Watkins Glen, and maybe especially so in one of these cars that just are purebred, wonderful racing cars with immense performance potential. A great place to unleash that potential here at a track like Watkins Glen. And yeah, that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah,
he wants to get in the car, Brian.
Yeah, not a good day. I want to get in the car, and I'm not thinking that's going to happen with 4.5 minutes to go. Wow. You look at the number of Lamborghini Huracans that have been extricated from tire walls and removed from the racetrack, not of their own power. And that's kind of what I want to be doing right now, Ryan.
That looks
very
a pretty nice spot.
Actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good puppy right there. Oh, don't wake him up. He was having a great nap. Yeah. Who doesn't love their dog? And it's great to see. I think it's one of the other great things about this racetrack is the fans. And you're going to do your hair like that, I'm pretty sure. You're going to get a mohawk? I'm liking the mohawk there. Good job, boys. Dad, do you have one? I don't know. Oh, well, yeah. He does.
Yeah.
Probably for good reason, but. And then some water over there. Fan friendly. That's what Watkins Glen is what it always has been. It's like a park. The inside of the racetrack is so expansive. It gives you the opportunity to wander around, see so many different areas of the racetrack. Hi to you guys as well. I was going to say y'all since I'm from Texas, but didn't know if you'd understand that there in New York. Hey guys, how's it going? Good day? Good day. Absolutely. Any day at Watkins Glen is a good day. And we've got IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship qualifying coming up after the Lamborghini Super Trofeo race concludes. Inside 3 minutes to go. And Ryan, let's talk about the rest of the season. Road America is up next. And Road America, to me, a lot like Watkins Glen. Again, they're all from kind of that same Renaissance era of building racetracks here in the U.S.
Cut out of the same cloth, same kind of high speed, high commitment racetrack that drivers absolutely revere, similar kind of camping atmosphere. And for the WeatherTech Championship, it's the first time in a long time that it's been an endurance race, a full 6-hour race at Road America this year. That's a really cool deal and a new addition to the schedule that's been well received. And great support options on the bill as well, including the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship, as we mentioned earlier.
Another one of those racetracks that, like we said, is just absolutely awesome. And then you want history. What's up next after Road America? Nothing other than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Not much more history in a racing venue than that one. Opened up in 1909. Sports cars are a more recent addition to the resume there at Indianapolis, but have kind of made it a home. Various championships going there over the years. And then to wrap things up in Monza, another place just steeped in history. And I think it's kind of cool that Indy leads into Monza. Back in the 50s, a couple of times there were races that pitted the Indy cars of the era against some sports cars and Formula One cars on the high-banked oval there at Monza.
Oh, wow.
They called it the Race of Two Worlds. And the oval was called Monzanapolis. So again, I think we could revive that a little bit. The final 2 races of the season, our own little Monzanapolis.
I like it. I like the way you're thinking. Like the way you're thinking. Beautiful weather this weekend. Hey, everybody, you don't need the umbrella for rain like we have in years past. Might want a little bit of shade today, but it has been fantastic. And that's the other thing about this area of the country is you don't know what you're going to get. It's kind of like Forrest Gump in the box of chocolates, right? You can get up here and the weather can be just as it is right now and absolutely gorgeous as the white flag waves. But you and I have been up here when it rained, it hailed, lightning was in the area, and you had to shut down and remove the camera operators and the corner workers to save places because of the lightning that's in the area. And then you can have days like this. Or I've been here when you have a day like this, and then it turns into the storm day, and then it ends up like this again.
Right. Yeah, there was a year I was here, I think it was 2 years ago, where I was working down in the pits, and we had so much rain. I think if you had given me a pool floaty, I could have got in and just floated down the pit lane and ended up somewhere around where we're looking right here at the bottom of the hill in Turn 1. It was a torrential downpour that particular day. We've avoided that today at least. The other interesting thing about the weather here is if you are up in the grandstands, especially along the pit straight, you can often see it coming at you. It's a great piece of real estate. You're really at altitude, and you can see all around you, around the valleys and things like that. And that sometimes you know long before it arrives what's about to head your way and can plan accordingly.
Absolutely, and I think that's the great thing about the racetracks that Lamborghini Super Trofeo and in general that IMSA runs is they're such cool racetracks. You can find anything you want. If you want a little cooler weather, well, I'd say go up to CTMP in Canada, but it's not always cool up there. I've been up there when it's blazing hot. But the great thing about all of them is you need to go to all of them. They're vacation spots. You can go and watch racing, but there are other things that you can do in those areas. Sebring, you've got all of the attractions of Florida at spring break, and obviously WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. You've got the beautiful Pacific coast of California here at Watkins Glen. Road America, America's heartland, and it's such a beautiful place. And then, of course, Indianapolis. It's just super cool, and you don't have to go just for the race cars. But then again, why would you?
Well, to me, that's the selling point, but you're right. I mean, beautiful parts of the country to go and visit, awesome racetracks with great history, and just, I mean, you look at this field, 41 cars, and you wonder why. What's the secret sauce? Well, part of it is you get to drive a Lamborghini fast and one of these amazing Super Trofeo Lamborghinis around some of the best tracks, but I think it's the chance to visit places with such rich history, things to do outside of the racetrack as well. So all in all, it's a recipe for success, and we've seen that in a decade or so of Super Trofeo North America. It continues to grow and just go from strength to strength.
All right, Ryan, final lap and coming through the last couple of corners, we know there are going to be significant changes in the running order as the cars go across the line. There are penalties that have to be served for short pit stops. There are penalties for pit stops that have not been made yet. And so it's one of those things that as the cars go across the line, timing and scoring should change and give us the correct order, but it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. So the cars will be across the line before we actually know the final running order. It has been a crazy one here in race number 2 at Watkins Glen for Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Checkered flag is out. The number 40 of Miller will take across the line. We'll see the checkered flag first, but we're going to have to see how this stands as all the cars go by and penalties are applied.
And we'll let that sort through, so sorry, bear with us. We're still trying to figure out exactly who is going to win in the respective classes. The thing to remember is the top 5 on the road all owed a pit stop, and there was a message that just popped up. All cars that did not pit will receive an appropriate penalty post-race. So that will get factored in here at some point, and then we'll have a better sense of the way things stack up, not just in this race, but the wild nature of this one, Brian, has the chance to have a pretty big impact on the season as a whole. There were plenty of strategies that never got a chance to play out, plenty of fast cars that never had a chance to come up through the field if they didn't have a good qualifying, for instance. So even though this has been an odd race, it's one that could definitely still have an impact on the season if you look at the bigger picture.
Well, and I'm interested, too, to see if there are going to be any penalties for the way cars came across the line. There is a very distinct rule. It was written because of a race that happened 2 years ago here that ended under yellow, where time penalties were involved, and people tried to game the system by rushing up and being side by side with the car in front of them, so perhaps the time penalty wouldn't hurt so much, because a time penalty under full course caution drops you well back in the order. All of the drivers are instructed, and it said in the driver briefing before the weekend that if it ended under full course caution, you are to stay within 2 car lengths of the car in front of you, single file across the line. Well, I looked at about the last 15 cars in line, and they were stacked up nose to tail, some of them side by side as they came across the line. So we'll have, I'm just glad that I'm not in timing and scoring and going to have to figure out who goes where in this.
That makes 2 of us, Brian, that's for sure. And I bet those of you watching or listening in would probably add yourself to that total. What we can tell you is that the cars that did not serve penalties, they will get the equivalent of what they would have spent in the pit lane added to their time. So if it's a 2-driver lineup, that's 90 seconds. Single-driver lineup, it's a 93-second penalty. There's also a penalty coming for the 41 that Mark Miller started and Paul Dimshoff has finished here because we determined they had pitted in a closed pit. So I think that could mean that the 44 Kaizen car with Wyatt Foster now driving might end up with the overall win here in this one, which would be the first time this year that a Pro Class car has not won overall, I believe. So that's an interesting development.
Yeah, I'm looking at the timing screen now, and it just popped up a new message. Car 1, 40, 41, 44, 47,
well, never mind then.
72, and 89 all have unserved mandatory pit stops. So that is at least the first, we're beyond the 44. And yeah, so as the penalties are applied, the order will change. This is going to take a while, just as this race took a while with that lengthy red flag that we had in the middle of it. So timing and scoring will work to get all of that sorted. And as each penalty is applied, it's changing now, but it's going to take a little bit to get it there. It could very well be the 29 with the victory yet again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, as it turns out. But you know what? Race control is going to have to sift through that when there's some other things that need to be reviewed post-race as well. So any results we could give you would have been provisional at best, Brian.
Absolutely, and I do believe that it'll be the 29 again. We'll have to wait and see. That's the best thing we saw all day long. Brandon Godovic, thumbs up, saying, hey, I'm okay, after some push and shove and crash in the S's. Lamborghini Super Trofeo, North America, always exciting. The next time we'll see you, Road America.